This is a test.
Speaker box.
Hello to my conscious community, to my comedic community. My name is William Humphrey, also known as Tahuti Forever. I do have a few videos on YouTube that I would like you to come and check out. Subscribe to my page. The information on my videos is comedic consciousness. It's Black history. It really explains how we got to where we are. This video is in reference to my book, which is online for sale, called Quantum Philosophy, Meanings, Answers, and Promises. It's a very inspiring book. I was very motivated to write this book. I was placed in a situation where I needed to find adequacy. I had to write this book because it gave me spiritual adequacy, a place where I could have a spiritual outlet. The spirituality of the Christian religion didn't satisfy the need for something so profound as my sister passing away. And I couldn't find any other resource that actually adequately described the situation that was happening between my understanding of reality, God, spirituality. The whole framework of my mind transformed, and I needed something that was solid, a solid platform that I can understand and I can put my belief systems on that wasn't going to shatter away. Back in 2008, my sister Victoria Humphrey passed away. She died at a nightclub. She was shot in the heart. The framework of my mind completely shattered when my sister passed away. I needed to find something that was solid, something that I can hold on to, that I can believe was real. I needed to find reality. My spirituality was spun. This book is a comedic conscious book. The inspiring thing about it is that I wrote the book prior to being enlightened to the conscious community. I put myself in a meditative state when I was writing my diary, and when that happened, I connected with Tahuti. I had no experience of who Tahuti was. So when I wrote this diary, I was writing the cornerstones of my reality. Now, after I wrote the diary, I formatted the diary in a fashion that it could be read. So Quantum Philosophy is a very spiritual book. It's a very meaningful book, enlightening book. I had no actual prior training in anything metaphysical or comedic. However, those are natural concepts that originated through looking at and observing nature. I was able to understand reality through the eyes of Tahuti. In these videos, I call myself Tahuti Forever because I tapped into the information of the ancestors. In ancient Egypt, they had a type of spirituality unlike no other. And I was able to tap into that. I was raised as a Christian. However, Christianity, doctrine, and spirituality never sat well in my spirit. So when I was face to face with mortality, the mortality of my sister, I had to find an adequate source. I couldn't just coast on the doctrine and the religion that was taught to me. I had to find something that was solid, something that I could hold fast to, so that when my reality was to build back up, it would stand firm. While I was writing the book Quantum Philosophy, I did a lot of meditation, and because of the meditation, I was enlightened. There's a couple of different places that you go to. One of the places the Buddhists call Satori. My sister's name was Victoria. We called her Tori. The name Satori struck a chord in me, and it's basically the land of enlightenment. It's a place you go that is not of this physical realm, but is filled with knowledge. It's knowledgeful information, and it's a feeling of belonging. You know you belong there in a field of knowledge and understanding. That's Satori. When I was 11 years old, I went to Satori, but because I didn't know it was called Satori, I just called it truth. It's a natural thing to call it. If you're in a place with knowledge and understanding, you're gonna call it truth. So in my book, Quantum Philosophy, I speak a lot about truth, and truth is a place. It's a place that you go to when you're enlightened. When you're in a meditative state, you can go to Satori. So this book, Quantum Philosophy, talks a lot about truth. I wasn't exposed to the fields of the conscious community or metaphysics or quantum physics at that time. But I wrote this book based on understanding out of a necessity. I needed it. I had to have something that I can relate to, something that can show me reality is still real after my sister passed away. It's a very eye-opening book, a very unique way of looking at reality. I was looking through the lens of Tahuti. Tahuti is the natural law of understanding and wisdom. So I was looking through the lens of understanding and wisdom through the act of meditation. In this video, I would like to read passages and parables out of my book, Quantum Philosophy. In the table of contents, it reads a chapter about God, the soul, God's laws, reality, the foundation, enlightenment, the universe, metaphysics, miracles, evolution, judgment, the natural, the brain, the hierarchy, vested fate, vibrations, co-creators, causality, piety, character, DNA, the vector, recollection, perception, confirmation, aptitude, indifference, ethics, illumination, providence, constitution, human behavior, perceptible consciousness, earth, divine design, meditation, ascension, composure, recap, paradox, refinement, acolytes, unfamiliar, reservations. There is a lot of information in this book. The subject is very intense. The book will have you going through emotions. It will have you stopping to rethink and refigure. The first chapter is called The Nutshell. I'm just going to read the very first page of The Nutshell. It says, the world is a stage in a game called life. All people are characters of God. When a man plays a video game like Mortal Kombat, he brings his character to life. He animates his character with a controller. When he focuses on his character, he loses part of his own awareness. He becomes less conscious of his environment because he is channeling a portion of his consciousness into the game character. When he turns off the game, he regains his channeled consciousness. We are not the God. All human beings are an embodiment of the only true God. Characters in a game cannot affect a higher reality. The door doesn't swing both ways, but the day we ascend, we gain full awareness. When we realize that we're just playing a game, we become fully conscious. This is like an everlasting revelation amplified by an eternity of knowledge and understanding, infinite power. Take a moment to reflect on this, but I intend to rationalize this concept. This is page number 1. This book breaks down the ego. It breaks the ego down into 3 separate divisions. It really puts a spin on the ego that most people have never thought about. Most people are not aware, have not thought about the voices that you hear when you're thinking, where those voices come from, who are those voices. It really puts the intention of the characters that we call ourselves or our ego, and it defines these intentions and what their agendas are. They drive us. Our ego is that energy, it's that will that drives us to do certain actions versus other actions. This book gets into depth when it comes to human behavior and when it comes to spirituality. This is a paragraph about God. In this book, Quantum Philosophy, I don't go into defining who or what God is because I truly believe that God is beyond definition. You cannot define God because all words have parameters. So any attribute that you give to God is an ability with a parameter. God is beyond any parameters that any words could actually define. So I don't actually define God because I don't want to put that noose around the infiniteness of God. I am going to read this paragraph and it does relate to God. It says, after millions of years of evolution, man became capable of creating art, music, community, governments, religions, and gods. In reality, God is everywhere. God doesn't need us for worship. God didn't create us for amusement. We are created by the grace of God. God is loving and generous. Men are not worthy to praise or honor God. God is too superior. This is why man decided to create a lesser God to fill a void. Some say God is a spiritual being with no focal point to make God easier to idolize, but the fullness of God is not a being. In a non-existence where there is no beingness, God is still unchanged. Using a placement in order to try to conceive God is as inaccurate as to believe that God doesn't exist at all. God is God. Now this book goes into what I call God's laws. God's laws is similar to the laws of nature, but again, it's an out-of-the-box thinking. There are 4 primary laws in the universe: the strong force, the weak force, magnetism, and gravity. These are the 4 fundamental forces of the universe. Through understanding spirituality, this book, Quantum Philosophy, has found the 5th fundamental force. Quantum mechanics has been hindered because they don't have a full understanding of all the forces in the universe. And this book has discovered a necessary 5th force. So God's laws is very important. Now let me move forward. Second chapter is the overflow. The nutshell is a basic representation of my personal relationship with God. The overflow is a more in-depth disclosure. Before I could have a genuine relationship with God, I had to release myself of my obligations to faith. I put my relationship with God to the test. I was able to reason God out of existence. I came to the understanding that it is possible every time I believed that I had received divine intervention was actually a natural phenomenon. I then realized that life could be because life just is. I became terrified. I remember thinking to myself, now look, what have I done? Searching for truth? I have reasoned away God. I eventually realized that I should not be afraid of losing God to truth because truth is true if you believe it or not. Understanding can't create or destroy God. I then continued with my method of being only devoted to truth. My goal was to simplify everything in order to reach a universal truth. The first question relates to the paradox. What came first, the chicken or the egg? While I pondered this, I came to the conclusion that whatever created existence had to have been around forever. The catalyst had to have functioned prior to existence, or it would have came from something else, which would mean it could not have created everything. Furthermore, the conclusion to the paradox could be one of two things. Either existence has been around forever, or God created it. The answer to this question is irrelevant because God is existence. What gives us hope is the idea that existence has consciousness. What begins with the paradox ends with the paradox. So that's the first page of the second chapter. I challenged the concept of God being in existence at all. What came out of that challenge was the fact that I knew where my loyalties lied. My loyalty is to truth. Kemet is the most profound truth that I have found dating back further than 7,000 years. My loyalties have not changed. Kemet simply gives me the information that way I can get to the truth. My only loyalty is to the truth. If I find superior information, I will change my whole mindset in reference to Kemet, Black history, in reference to reality to support the truth. My loyalty is to the truth first. This book, Quantum Philosophy, is a reflection of the mindset of being loyal to the truth first. I do have 6 videos. These videos that I created are 10-minute videos, so you can watch all 10-minute videos within about an hour. They're called Quantum Philosophy Workshop 1 through 6. So you can go onto YouTube and YouTube Quantum Philosophy Workshop 1 through 6, and that will give you an understanding of more of the information that's in this book. This book can give you an alternative way of looking and experiencing reality. Thank you for viewing. My name is William Humphrey, also known as Tahuti Forever.